Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad M. Hakimi. Today, I short story about maize pollination. Maize is a type of grass that is grown for its grain. It is a self-pollinating crop, which means that the pollen from the male flower can fertilize the female flower on the same plant.
Hi, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Today I'm going to show you how to cross-pollinate maize yellow male with yellow female using a paper bag to collect the dust pollen. What is cross-pollination? Cross-pollination is when pollen from one plant is transferred to the stigma of another plant. This can happen naturally or it can be done by hand. First and foremost is identifying the male. The male maize plant will have tassels, which are the cluster of the flowers that produce pollen. To identify the male plants, we can look from the following structure. The male plant will have tassels at the top of the plant. The tassels are typically yellow color. Next, collecting the pollen from the male plant. To collect the pollen from the male plant, we will need a paper bag. Gently shake the tassels over the paper bag. The pollen will fall into the bag. It is important to collect the pollen gently so that we do not damage the tassels. We should also collect the pollen before the seeds on the female plant are fully extended. This is because the seeds will only be receptive to pollen for a short period time. Okay, before I transfer the pollen to the female plant, I will need to label the paper bag with a marker pen. This will help me to keep track of which plants have been cross-pollinated. We should label the paper bag with the following information. First one is the date of the cross-pollination. Secondly, the variety of the male plant. And lastly is the variety of the female plant.
Next, let's open the paper bag and carefully pour the pollen onto a surface new paper bag. As we can see, the pollen is a fine dust-like powder. It is yellow in color and is very light. The pollen is so light that it can be easily blown away by the wind. This is why it is important to collect the pollen and transfer it to the female. To do this, I will need a small brush. Gently brush the pollen out of the paper bag. The pollen will be a fine dust-like powder.
For the next step is I choose small baby corn. There are a few reasons why I use small baby corn for pollination. Another reason to use small baby corn for pollination is that it is a very effective way to do it. The pollen from the baby corn is very sticky, so it is more likely to stick to the stigma of the female plant. This means that I am more likely to get a successful pollination.
Let's start by gently brush the pollen from the paper bag onto the seeds of the female plant. Here, I explain about the reproductive system. Seeds of the female maize plant are the stigmas, which are responsible for receiving pollen. When the pollen lands on the seeds, it will germinate and grow a pollen tube. The pollen tube will travel down the silk and fertilize the egg sent in the ovary. This will eventually result in the formation of corn kernels. By brushing the pollen onto the seeds of the female plant, we are ensuring that the corn will be pollinated and that we will get a crop of corn. Once you have transferred the pollen to the female plant, I will need to tie the paper bag around the ear of corn to keep the pollen from blowing away. To do this, simply fold the top of the paper bag over the ear of corn and staple it in place. It is important to make sure that the bag is tightly sealed so that the pollen does not escape. This will help to ensure that the pollen is transferred to the seeds of the female plant and that pollination is successful. The pepper bag will help to keep the pollen from blowing away by creating a barrier around the ear of corn. This is important because the pollen is very light and can easily be blown away by the wind. The stapler will help to secure the paper bag in place and prevent it from coming undone. I can also use a piece of string of rubber band to tie the bag in place. It is important to make sure that the bag is tightly sealed so that the pollen does not escape.
Next is I repeating the steps on yellow male to purple female. For the purple male to yellow female and purple male to purple female, maize also use the same steps. In this video, we both just show to yellow male only. To repeat the steps on yellow male to purple female, I will need to follow the same steps as before. However, there are a few important differences. The male plant will be yellow and the female plant will be purple. The pollen will be yellow and the seeds will be purple. The paper bag will need to be a different too.
In conclusion, cross-pollinating maize using a paper bag is an effective way to create new varieties of maize with desired traits. This is because the paper bag helps to prevent the pollen from being contaminated with pollen from other plants. This ensures that only the pollen from the desired plant is transferred to the female plant, which will result in offspring with the desired traits. That's all there is to it. So next time you growing maize, give it a try.